The fan off chair. Thank you. Hello? Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Yeah. So today we'll discuss about the liver tumors, and with this I will end this liver topic. Okay. How many of you are there in the class now? How many of you are there? Two, only two?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So today we'll discuss about the liver tumors. So liver tumors, any tumors in any organ, we classify them as a benign tumors and a malignant tumors. So when coming to the liver tumors, we have benign tumors called cavernous hemangioma, hepatic adenoma. So these two are benign tumors which we commonly see in the liver. Okay, cavernous hemangioma, like in any other organ, it is made up of dilated large vascular spaces lined by clump endothelial lining. So multiple vascular spaces will be there. Very much dilated, huge vessels. So with RBC in it. Okay, it is like in any other organ. It is the same. So it is mostly it will be an incidental finding. So when they are doing scan for any other problem, then they'll find it out. Normally they won't cause any symptoms unless it is at the subcapsular region and some rupture or some hematoma formation is there. Unless that kind of incidents are there, we will not find this. Okay. Whereas and then the hepatic adenoma, it is the most common benign liver tumor. And then there is a non-neoplastic condition called nodular hyperplasia. It is not a tumor, and that means it is not either a benign or a malignant tumor, but it is a reactive condition. It is it can be seen in some patients. It is an incidental finding. Okay, so it is a like these nodules are seen like a like our cirrhotic nodules only, but without the absence of without the background of cirrhosis, we see an occasional small nodules in the liver. That is an incidental finding. That is called nodular hyperplasia. Okay, see, then this whitish part in this nodule is made up of predominantly a scar tissue. That is okay, predominantly a scar tissue that is mainly made up of fibrous tissue. Okay, and the rest is a normal hepatocytes. See, in that scar, we see a lot of inflammatory cells. This is the fibrous tissue, a lot of inflammatory cells, and we see portal tracts and bile ducts and all these things in this scar. Okay, this is an incidental finding. Normally, it won't cause any symptoms or any problems unless there is some duct obstruction because of this hyperplasia. We won't find any symptoms in this kind of disease. Okay. Coming to the hepatic adenoma, so it is usually seen in usually seen in women who are using contraceptives. So with the stoppage of contraceptives, the hepatic adenoma automatically it will reduce in size. So that indicates the role of contraceptives in these tumors. So these are benign tumors. Normally they won't cause any problems. So most of the times it's an incidental finding because of some other problem. If they go for ultrasound, then they might find a small adenoma in the liver, and see, very rarely when it when it compresses the adjacent ducts, it will cause symptoms. Okay, then the most important finding, important aspect for this hepatic adenoma is hepatic adenomas are premalignant conditions. Like sometimes they might progress to the hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay, And after using contraceptives, if the woman become pregnant, and if the adenoma is subcapsular in region just below the capsule of the liver, they might rupture during pregnancy. Otherwise it won't cause any problem, but they might rupture in pregnancy. So, and sometimes within the adenoma we might see some carcinoma site. Okay, and it is usually variable in size, very small in sizes, like 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters to up to 30 centimeters it can grow. That is very rare kind of thing. Okay, so based on the molecular analysis and clinical and pathological findings, these adenomas are again divided into 3 types, because these 3 different adenomas we have to identify, because the chances of getting malignant in one of these in 2 of these conditions is high when compared to the other. So these three types of adenomas are HNF1 alpha inactivated hepatocellular adenomas. That is, there is a mutation in the HNF1 alpha gene, and inactivated hepatocellular adenomas. They usually associated with mature onset diabetes mellitus of Eng type 3. So they usually associated with that, and the chance of getting malignancy in these patients is a little bit less when compared to the other adenomas. And the beta-catenin activated hepatocellular adenomas, they are associated with other tumors in the body, and that they have a very high risk of malignancy. That's why when we diagnose hepatic adenoma, and if we find any mutations in that kind of hepatic adenomas, so even though it is not causing any problems, or even though it is very small, it should be removed, because chances of becoming it malignant is very high. Okay. And then the third type is inflammatory hepatocellular adenoma. It is usually associated with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So other day we discussed about the NAFLD. Can anybody tell me what are the different factors leading to NAFLD? Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and all are high risk factors for NAFLD. So these people, they might develop intra-inflammatory hepatocellular adenomas. All these 3 categories are associated with use of oral contraceptives. Okay, but based on the molecular analysis and these pathological findings, so the chances of malignancy varies. So inflammatory hepatocellular adenomas, when they are there is a high risk of malignancy, especially when they also show beta-catenin activated hepatocellular beta-catenin mutations. So in the background of inflammation, if there is a beta-catenin mutations, the risk of malignancy will become very, very, very high. So that is why if we find any of these adenomas, it should be removed, even though it is not causing any symptoms or signs. Okay. And this is the difference between a benign and malignant tumors. Benign tumors are very well encapsulated, and they usually compress the adjacent structures. They don't infiltrate into the adjacent structures. That is the difference between the benign and malignant tumors. See, like this, the adenoma is very well circumscribed, and it is well encapsulated, and it is pushing the adjacent liver. So like this, adenomas usually see. So here also, see, complete encapsulated tumor, and it is not infiltrating into this adjacent liver. Okay, so adenomas are usually small, encapsulated, and not infiltrating into the adjacent normal liver parenchyma. See, this one. See, this is the normal liver. So this is the adenoma. It's made up of see, this is the adenoma, and this is the normal liver. So these are dilated sinusoids in the liver, and here lot of liver parenchymal cells. They look like a normal liver parenchymal cells, but they have a capsule, and they don't have a sinusoidal architecture and all, and they are not showing any like atypical features. So this is a hepatocellular adenoma. Okay. And even this adenoma also sometimes contains a normal ducts. Okay, because of this we can differentiate it from the malignant conditions and all. Okay. Then the malignant liver tumors. So what are the different malignant liver tumors? The most common one is hepatocellular carcinoma, and the other 2 are hepatoblastoma and cholangiocarcinoma. There are some other tumors, but these three are common. Okay. So what is the other name of hepatocellular carcinoma? It is otherwise called hepatoma. So what the OMA suggests whenever we describe any tumor?
Benign tumor.
Benign, but here it is not benign. Okay. Here, though it is called hepatoma, it is not benign. Hepatoma means hepatocellular carcinoma, not hepatic adenoma. In hepatic adenoma, we don't call hepatoma. Whereas hepatocellular carcinoma can be called hepatoma. That is the actually misnomenclature, but it is usually it happens actually. So what are the other tumors which have OMA in that, but still they are malignant? Can you tell me any other tumors? Any other tumors? What is the tumor arising from the
Melanoma.
Melanoma, melanin pigment cells. Okay, melanoma. So though it is called melanoma, it is not benign, it is malignant. And what are the tumors arising from the lymph nodes?
Lymphoma.
Lymphoma. Though it is OMA, it is not benign. Likewise, glioblastoma. Glioblastoma in case of brain tumor, though OMA is there, it is not a glioblastoma. Especially, it is a very aggressive malignant tumor of brain. Okay. So these are the misnomenclatures. Okay. So then the hepatoblastoma and cholangiocarcinoma. So we'll discuss about these things. So hepatocellular carcinoma, highest incidence in Southeast China, Korea, and Taiwan and Mozambique. See why usually when I take any classes, I don't discuss much about the epidemiology. Okay, but for this there is some relevance. That's why I wrote this one. So why is Southeast China, Korea, and Taiwan has a highest incidence? So that is because of the background of hepatitis B viral infections. There is a vertical transmission of hepatitis B cases in these countries. What is the vertical transmission?
Mother to child.
Mother to child. There is a very high incidence of mother to child transmission of hepatitis B in these patients. So when the child gets infected with hepatitis B virus at a very young age, like at the time of newborn birth, then there is every chance that it will destruct their liver and they will develop into cirrhosis, and most of the times they will end up with a liver cancer. But because of hepatitis B vaccination nowadays we are all taking hepatitis B vaccines. So the incidence has decreased in those areas also. So that is one simple thing to remember actually. Why it is there in the China and Korea means because of vertical transmission, and now the incidence is decreasing because of HBV vaccine. Okay, so most of the times, so male to female ratio is 2 to 8:1, and it is closely linked to the hepatitis B viral infection, as we already discussed. And the cirrhosis is present in 85 to 90% of non-HBV cancers. Okay, so without a background of hepatitis B viral infection, so 85 to 90% of hepatocellular carcinomas are associated with cirrhosis. But I will tell you one thing. So cirrhosis is not a pre-malignant condition. Okay, cirrhosis may lead to hepatocellular carcinoma, but it's not a pre-malignant condition. The factors would the progression of a liver disease to cirrhosis happens in parallel with the progression of the chronic inflammatory liver disease to the hepatocellular carcinoma. They both happens at the same time. That is why they mostly are getting associated. So previously they thought like cirrhosis will turn into malignancy. Not like that. Cirrhosis happens at the same time, malignancy also happens at the same time. So that is why most of the times we find cirrhosis and malignancy. So cirrhosis is present in 85 to 90% of non-HBV cancers. And 20 to 40 years, HBV related hepatitis B virus అయితే at the time of birth వస్తుంది కాబట్టి వాళ్ళకి 20 to 40 years వచ్చేటప్పటికి malignancies వస్తాయి ఎక్కువ. అదే non-HBV cases లో అయితే more than 60 years. What are the non-HBV causes of hepatocellular carcinoma? Can anybody tell me?
Blood transfusion.
Non-hepatitis B causes of hepatocellular carcinoma. I'm asking. హెపటైటిస్ బి లేకుండా మ్యాలిగ్నెన్సీ లివర్ క్యాన్సర్ ఎప్పుడు రావచ్చు? ఆ కింద లైన్ లోనే రాసింది. యూ హ్యావ్ టు రీడ్ దట్. సో హెపటైటిస్ సి వైరల్ ఇన్ఫెక్షన్ కానీ, ఆల్కహాలిక్ అబ్యూస్ కానీ, ఆర్ ఎనీ అదర్ టాక్సిన్స్, ఆఫ్లోటాక్సిన్ కానీ ఇలాంటివి ఏమైనా ఉంటే కనుక నాన్ హెపటైటిస్ బి hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay, and there are some pre-malignant conditions in hepatocellular carcinoma. First one is hepatic adenoma. We already discussed 3 types. Beta-catenin and inflammatory hepatic adenomas are more prone for hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay, and the second one is small cell change. The third one is large cell change, low-grade dysplastic nodule, and high-grade dysplastic. So small cell change, reactive condition. Why there is wait one moment. Can you hear my echo?
Yes, sir.
Now it is normal, I think. Okay. Okay, small cell change, large cell change అంటే reactive changes. Chronic hepatitis లో like either because of viral infection వల్ల కానీ లేదంటే ఆల్కహాల్ వల్ల కానీ లేదంటే NASH నాన్ ఆల్కహాలిక్ ఫ్యాటీ లివర్ డిసీజ్ వల్ల కానీ దేనివల్ల క్రానిక్ ఇన్ఫ్లమేషన్ ఉంటుంది. మీకు చెప్పాను కదా స్టీటో హెపటైటిస్ అంటాం. ఆ ఇన్ఫ్లమేషన్ ఉన్నప్పుడు కొన్నిసార్లు లివర్ సెల్స్ ఏమవుతాయంటే ఆటోమేటిక్ గా దే విల్ టేక్ సమ్ చేంజెస్ లైక్ స్మాల్ సెల్ చేంజ్, లార్జ్ సెల్ చేంజ్ అంటాం. సో వాటిలోని స్మాల్ సెల్ చేంజ్ ఉంటే మోర్ ప్రోన్ ఫర్ మాలిగ్నెన్సీ. లార్జ్ సెల్ చేంజ్ లో కూడా మాలిగ్నెంట్ కండిషన్ ప్రోగ్రెషన్ ఉండొచ్చు, బట్ స్మాల్ సెల్ చేంజ్ ఇస్ మోర్ ప్రోన్ ఫర్ మాలిగ్నెన్సీ. వేరేజ్ మనకి సర్విక్స్ లోని డిస్ప్లేషియా ఉంటుంది, చదువుకున్నాం కదా, అలాగా లో గ్రేడ్ డిస్ప్లేషియా, హై గ్రేడ్ డిస్ప్లాస్టిక్ నాడ్యూల్స్ ఫామ్ అవుతాయి ఒకసారి. So high grade dysplastic nodules are more prone for malignancy. So these are all the pre-malignant conditions in the liver. Okay. So this one, see this is a large cell change. Adjacent ga liver cells ila undali. Okay. Ikkada ela unnai trabecular ga ila undali. Okay. But ivi ila peddaga aipai ante even cytoplasm increase అయిపోతుంది, nucleus kuda increase అయిపోయి with prominent nucleoli వచ్చేస్తుంది. వచ్చేస్తే దాన్ని large cell change అంటాం. ఈ లార్జ్ సెల్ చేంజ్ ఉంటే కనుక there is a chance of malignancy, but when compared to the small cell change it is less. Small cell change అంటే cells become small but the nuclei become enlarged, increased nuclear cytoplasmic ratio ఉంటుంది. అలా ఉంటే కనుక chance of becoming malignancy is very high. These are all reactive conditions because of some other liver disease, inflammatory liver disease. Okay, and the pathogenesis of hepatocellular carcinoma mostly p53 mutations ఉంటే కనుక hepatocellular carcinoma వచ్చే ఛాన్స్ ఉంటుంది. Okay, so p53 mutations can be occur due to hepatitis B virus infection or because of aflatoxins or so many other things. Okay, so p53 mutations are more prone for hepatocellular carcinoma. Then hepatocellular carcinoma, so vaccination against HBV dramatically reduces the incidence in endemic areas as we already discussed. Elevated alpha fetoprotein, మీకు ట్యూమర్ మార్కర్స్ కొన్ని ఉంటాయి. సో ఆల్ఫా ఫిటోప్రోటీన్ కనుక రైజ్ అయితే యూజువల్లీ వి సస్పెక్ట్ హెపటోసెల్యులర్ కార్సినోమా ఇఫ్ దేర్ ఈస్ ఎనీ మాస్ లీజన్ ఇన్ ద లివర్. ఓకే, ఎనీ అదర్ కండిషన్ కెన్ యూ టెల్ మీ వేర్ ఆల్ఫా ఫిటోప్రోటీన్ ఇంక్రీజెస్? మీకు ఫీమేల్ జెనిటల్ ట్రాక్ట్ మొన్న అయినట్టుంది, అయిందా?
Yes, sir.
దాంట్లో ఏదైనా ట్యూమర్ లో ఆల్ఫా ఫిటోప్రోటీన్ రైజ్ అయ్యే ట్యూమర్ ఏమైనా ఉందా? ఇంకా అయిపోయిందా, ఇంకా అవ్వలేదా చాప్టర్? యోక్సాక్ ట్యూమర్ విన్నారా? ఓవరీ, యోక్సాక్ ట్యూమర్ ఆఫ్ ఓవరీ. రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి, నాకు తెలియదు మీరు విన్నారా లేదా. అయిందా అవ్వలేదా టాపిక్? Who is that? Is it Sai Krishna or Raju?
Sai Krishna, sir.
Yeah, యోక్సాక్ ట్యూమర్ అయిందా అవ్వలేదా?
సరిగ్గా గుర్తులేదు.
ఓకే, యోక్సాక్ ట్యూమర్ లో కూడా ఏఎఫ్పి రైజ్ అవుతుంది. అలాగే కొన్ని టెస్టిక్యులర్ ట్యూమర్స్ లో కూడా ఏఎఫ్పి రైజ్ అవుతుంది. అలాగే లివర్ ట్యూమర్ లో కూడా ఏఎఫ్పి రైజ్. దీన్ని ట్యూమర్ మార్కర్స్ అంటాం. ఆల్ఫా ఫిటోప్రోటీన్, CA125, ప్రోస్టేట్ స్పెసిఫిక్ యాంటిజెన్, CA19.9, ఇవన్నీ ట్యూమర్ మార్కర్స్ అంటాం. సో CA125 రైజ్డ్ ఇన్ కేస్ ఆఫ్ ఓవేరియన్ ట్యూమర్స్, సో ఎపిథీలియల్ ఓవేరియన్ ట్యూమర్స్. Whereas CA19.9 rise in the case of pancreatic tumors, like alpha fetoprotein in case of liver and testicular and ovarian tumors, like yolk-sac tumor. So PSA is raised in a prostatic tumor. So how we diagnose these cases is CT, MRI, and ultrasound angiography. So with the help of these tests, we can identify hepatocellular carcinoma. Of course, without biopsy, nobody can confirm it is a hepatocellular carcinoma. So grossly hepatocellular carcinomas are unifocal, multifocal, or diffusely infiltrative. So mostly a single lesion will be seen. Sometimes multiple lesions because of the intrahepatic vascular dissemination. You see a multifocal lesions and diffusely infiltrative lesions. They are almost attached to the sinuses of the liver. So normally we cannot identify on grossly. So that is a diffuse infiltrative liver hepatocellular carcinoma. So microscopically, in a well-differentiated tumors, you see a trabecular pattern like a normal liver, but nuclear cytoplasmic ratio is highly raised, and extracellular bile will be there. So all these things, when all these things are there, we can identify it as a hepatocellular carcinoma. And then SNR pattern like pseudoglandular pattern, poorly differentiated, highly undifferentiated atypical cells will be there, but they won't, like we cannot say whether it is a primary hepatocellular carcinoma or metastatic. And there is one more important variant called fibrolamellar variant of hepatocellular carcinoma. This is a PG entrance question. Okay, fibrolamellar variant of hepatocellular carcinoma. It has a good prognosis because it usually occurs in the young people, and it has a very good prognosis. It has a abundant fibrosis in the tumor. So this is a fibrolamellar variant. We have to identify when we see the microscopic slides. We have to identify whether it is a fibrolamellar variant or any other variant of hepatocellular carcinoma, because fibrolamellar have good prognosis. So this is a hepatocellular carcinoma. You see multiple lobular nodulated structures. Though it is capsulated, it is looking like capsule. It is almost a fibrosis actually. It is infiltration. It is fibrosis. The capsule is not around the tumor. It is inside the tumor. So it is a fibrosis. So infiltrating tumor. So I see here multiple lesions are there. This is a malignancy. This is malignancy, and this is malignancy. It is little bit light in color when compared to the normal tumor. That's all. Otherwise, we cannot identify it. So multifocal lesion. Previous one is, this is unifocal lesion. This is multifocal lesion. So this is a tumor with multiple satellite nodules. Like adjacent to the tumor, you see multiple nodules of the tumor. That is called tumor with adjacent satellite nodules because of the vascular spread of the tumor. Okay. So this is how it looks like trabecular arrangement of liver cells can be seen, and with the extracellular bile pigment. So this is how it can be seen. And this is the fibrolamellar variant with central massive fibrosis will be there and surrounded by tumor. So see, this is the microscopy. All these light pinkish lines is a fibrosis. So when there is an extensive fibrosis, it has a good prognosis. And these are the tumor cells. This brownish one is a bile pigment. Okay. Then the second one is a cholangiocarcinoma. So after hepatocellular carcinoma, the second most common thing is cholangiocarcinoma. Important points about cholangiocarcinoma is it arises without evidence of accident disease. There should not be any liver disease, no need of any liver disease. And the most important PG entrance question is thorostat exposure. So previously for a biliary radiography, like for an angio kind of thing, they used to use a thorostat dye. So when the people are exposed to thorostat dye, incidence of cholangiocarcinoma has increased. And the other important PG entrance question is related to liver fluke. So what is the pre-malignant? So liver fluke causes which of the following malignant tumors, like hepatocellular carcinoma, hepatic adenoma, cholangiocarcinoma? Means it is a cholangiocarcinoma, not hepatocellular carcinoma. Though it is a liver fluke. Cholangio ante ardham enti? Can anybody tell me cholangio ante ardham enti? Bile ducts. Angio ante it's almost like vessels. So bile ducts, cholangio, cholecystectomy ala antam kada. So bile ducts carcinoma. So it is not actually arising from the liver. It is arising from the bile ducts. Those bile ducts can be inside the liver or outside the liver. Only 10% of the times cholangiocarcinoma is inside the liver, intrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma, or 90% of the times it is outside the liver. When it is outside the liver, most of the times tumor is located at the hilum of the liver, and sometimes even at the duodenal part and all these things. Okay, so it is usually it has a pre-malignant condition is Opisthoarcus sinensis or Chlorarcus sinensis species, liver fluke infection. Okay, and it resembles adenocarcinoma. Adenocarcinoma, duct cell carcinoma, all are like adenocarcinomas only. Okay, no need of separate description for that. So these are the duct-like structures, but these are highly atypical, irregular ducts with cells lined with the ducts lined by atypical cells, and they are infiltrative. So this is all the fibrosis. So they form a lot of fibrosis. So this is the cholangiocarcinoma, and this is hepatoblastoma. ఈ హెపటోబ్లాస్టోమా, మెడిలోబ్లాస్టోమా ఆర్ నెఫ్రోబ్లాస్టోమా, ఇలాంటి బ్లాస్టోమా అనే పేర్లు ఎప్పుడైనా విన్నారనుకో, వాట్ ఈస్ ద కామన్ ఏజ్ గ్రూప్? కెన్ ఎనీబడి టెల్ మీ what is the common age group for nephroblastoma or hepatoblastoma or Wilms tumor? Common age group అని చెప్పగలరా? No. It is any blastoma అని వస్తే ఫస్ట్ మీరు చిల్డ్రన్ గుర్తుంచుకోండి. Okay, it happens below 3 years of age group, hepatoblastoma. Whereas meduloblastoma kuda less than 10 years of age group. Whereas nephroblastoma kuda less than 10 years of age group. ఈ blastoma అంటే blastemal component, అంటే embryonal part of the tumor resembles the embryonal part. Okay, అప్పుడు దానికి ఆ పేరు blastoma అని పెడతారు. సో embryonal part resemble అయిందంటే మోస్ట్లీ చిల్డ్రన్ లోనే కామన్, పండగ గుర్తుంచుకోండి. So hepatoblastoma is seen mostly in children less than 3 years of age group. So ఎక్కడైనా సరే బ్లాస్టోమా అని ఎగ్జామ్ లో వచ్చిందనుకో, నెఫ్రోబ్లాస్టోమా కానీ మెడిలోబ్లాస్టోమా కానీ, మీరు సింపుల్ గా ఒకటి రాయొచ్చు, ట్యూమర్ సెల్స్ ఆర్ డార్క్ బ్లూ ఇన్ కలర్ అని రాసేయచ్చు. సో మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద టైమ్స్ ఏంటంటే అవి డార్క్ బ్లూ కలర్ లో ఉంటాయి ట్యూమర్ సెల్స్. సో ఎపిథీలియల్ కాంపోనెంట్ ఉంటే కనుక, ఎపిథీలియల్ అండ్ మీసెన్కైమల్ కాంపోనెంట్ ఉంటాయి. సో ప్రిడామినెంట్లీ ఎపిథీలియల్ కాంపోనెంట్ ఉంటే దే లుక్ లైక్ ఎంబ్రియోనల్ లివర్ సెల్స్. ఓకే, అంటే డార్క్ బ్లూ న్యూక్లియై అలా ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. అదే ఫైబ్రోసిస్ ఉంటే కనుక మధ్య మధ్యలో పింకిష్ మెటీరియల్ ఉంటుంది. ఓకే, అండ్ ద అదర్ ట్యూమర్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ కామన్ అపార్ట్ ఫ్రమ్, ఇప్పుడు మనం ఏమేమి డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం, హెపటోసెల్యులర్ కార్సినోమా డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం, కొలాంజియోకార్సినోమా డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం, హెపటోబ్లాస్టోమా డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం. అండ్ ఈ కాకుండా ఇంకేదైనా ట్యూమర్స్ రావచ్చు అంటే హెమాంజియోసార్కోమాస్, యాంజియోసార్కోమాస్ రావచ్చు లివర్ లో, అలాగే లింఫోమాస్ రావచ్చు. In case of chronic hepatitis B, C, మనకి హెపటోసెల్యులర్ కార్సినోమా తో పాటు they can also lead to the lymphomas. And the HIV ఇన్ఫెక్షన్ ఉన్న వాళ్ళలో కానీ, ప్రైమరీ బిలియరీ సిరోసిస్ ఉన్న వాళ్ళలో కానీ, వీళ్ళందరిలో కూడా they are more prone for hepatic lymphomas. And the metastatic carcinoma, the tumor arising from some other organ and it infiltrates into the liver, that is seen in case of colon carcinomas lo gaani, lung lo gaani, breast gaani, pancreas gaani, or any other, for that matter any other abdominal tumor can spread to the liver. So metastatic tumors are more common when compared to the primary tumors. Liver loni ఏ malignant tumor common అంటే మీరు hepatocellular carcinoma రాయకూడదు. Metastatic tumors are more common. Primary malignant tumor ఏది కామన్ అంటే అప్పుడు hepatocellular carcinoma. Primary, secondaries are more common in liver, whereas in primary hepatocellular carcinoma is more common in liver. That is how you should remember. Okay, and the last slide. So I just want to conclude my class with a simple point. Like I don't want to neglect this pregnancy and liver disease, because so there is a chance that most of you can become physicians or can become a gynecologist or end up in working in a primary health center for some time. So in those patients, so many you will see a lot of pregnant females. Okay, even in general medicine people has to know these conditions, because if these conditions occur in a female, in a pregnant lady, they will automatically refer to general medicine people. So what happens in what is the association of pregnancy with liver disease is hepatitis. So even in the liver disease and the pregnancy also, females can get affected with hepatitis A infection, B infection, or C infection, or E infection. So out of which one is dangerous? Which hepatitis viral infection is dangerous for pregnant females? Can anybody tell me? A, B, C, E, which is dangerous for pregnant females? Can anybody? I already told you, fulminant hepatitis. Normally it won't cause any mild hepatitis. It cause mild hepatitis, which is auto, like it will like regulate by itself. but in pregnant ladies it causes fulminant hepatitis. What virus it is? Sai Krishna? Sai Krishna?
Hepatitis E, sir.
E causes fulminant hepatitis. 20% of the female pregnant ladies can die because of hepatitis E viral infection. So whenever you see hepatitis viral infection in pregnant ladies, you should immediately alert the gynecologist and you should immediately treat that patient. Okay. And then acute fatty liver of pregnancy. Chala variety undi kada. Fatty liver ante man chala long time lo vastadi because of obesity avvachu, diabetes avvachu, denivalla. Kani acute fatty liver pregnancy lo kontamandiki konni genetic defects valla pregnancy వచ్చిన వెంటనే సడన్ గా ఫ్యాటీ లివర్ వచ్చేస్తుంది. ఫ్యాటీ లివర్ వచ్చేసి అది ప్రెగ్నెన్సీ అయినతో పోతుంది, కానీ కొంతమందికి ఫ్యాటీ లివర్ మే టర్న్ ఇంటూ end stage liver disease and they might die. So acute fatty liver of pregnancy, the best way to decrease the problems is we have to terminate the pregnancy. But if it is causing any problems, we have to terminate the pregnancy. Okay. And then preeclampsia and eclampsia. What is preeclampsia? Preeclampsia means the patients will have a proteinuria and they have a high blood pressure and all these things in pregnant females. So what is eclampsia? Along with these things, if there is any convulsions and all, we call it as eclampsia. So these conditions can lead to the they might be because of the liver disease, and in these conditions they might go into the coagulopathies because of the liver failure. They might go into the coagulation, disseminated intravascular coagulation, and they might die. So what happens is we have to strictly like follow up those patients on a day-to-day basis, and if there is any problem, we have to terminate the pregnancy immediately. And there is a syndrome called HELP syndrome. HELP syndrome, it is seen in pregnant ladies. So what is HELP syndrome? మీకు అర్థం అవ్వడానికి నేను ఇలాగా HELP అని రాశాను. సో వాట్ ఈస్ హెల్ప్ సిండ్రోమ్? మీకు అర్థం అవడానికి ఇలా గుర్తుంచుకుంటారు, ఎందుకంటే హెల్ప్ సిండ్రోమ్ పీజీ ఎంట్రన్స్ క్వశ్చన్. అండ్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద టైమ్స్ ఫీమేల్స్ లోని ప్రెగ్నెంట్ లేడీస్ లో whenever we see any low platelets and elevated liver enzymes, we have to suspect this because the fatality rate is very high when there is a HELP syndrome. Like immediate గా పేషెంట్ మనం డెలివరీ చేసి వాళ్ళకి సపోర్టివ్ ట్రీట్మెంట్ ఇవ్వాలి, అదర్వైజ్ దే విల్ డై. H is hepatitis, EL is elevated liver enzymes, LP is low platelet count. Okay, so that is called HELP syndrome. Okay, and the other one is intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy. Suddenly in the third trimester, pregnant females, they start having a skin rash and they start scratching and they'll have a mild jaundice and their liver enzymes got elevated. It is because of intrahepatic cholestasis. It is because of their genetic defects where the pregnant females genetic defects where the bile release mechanism is defective, so that they have a cholestasis during pregnancy, and after pregnancy it will automatically subside. So we have to follow up those patients because we have to rule out the other conditions. So we have to follow up. If they are not progressive, then after pregnancy it will automatically subside. So these are the important diseases which is associated with the pregnancy and liver disease. Okay. Okay. Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Read about which book you are following?
Harshmohan, sir.
Harshmohan. Exam ki inka enta time undi?
6 months.
Exam ki enta time undi inka?
6 months.
ఇంకా చాలా టైం ఉందా?
లేదు.
నేను చెప్పినవన్నీ హర్షమోహన్ లో ఉన్నాయా? ఇంకా ఎక్కువ ఉన్నాయా? ఈ టాపిక్స్ అన్ని మీరు ఒకసారి హర్షమోహన్ లో చదవండి. ఎనీ డౌట్స్ ఉంటే కనుక మళ్ళీ అడగండి నన్ను. అంటే ఎగ్జామ్ లో రాయడానికి హర్షమోహన్ ఈజీ, బట్ రాబిన్స్ చదివితే వి విల్ డెవలప్ అ కాన్సెప్ట్. అంటే ఎగ్జామ్ కి అయితే హర్షమోహన్ చదివితే ఈజీగా ఉంటుంది, రాబిన్స్ చదివితే మనకి కాన్సెప్ట్ ఈజీగా డెవలప్ అవుతుంది. అండ్ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఉంటే పీజీ ఎంట్రన్స్ లో కానీ రేపు ఎప్పుడైనా సరే ఈజీగా ఆన్సర్ చేయగలం. సో టైం ఉంటే రాబిన్స్ కూడా చదవండి. రాబిన్స్ ఇస్ అ బెటర్ బుక్ దాన్ హర్షమోహన్. బట్ ఐ కెనాట్ డినై హర్షమోహన్ ఏం చెడ్డని నేనేం చెప్పట్లేదు కానీ, బట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ మెయిన్లీ డిజైన్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జామ్ ప్రిపరేషన్. ఓకే, ఓకే, ఆల్ ద బెస్ట్. ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్ మీకు సార్ తీసుకుంటారు. సార్ మీకు గాల్ బ్లాడర్, ప్యాంక్రియాస్ ఇవన్నీ చెప్తారు. ఓకే, ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ.